All right, everybody, let's get this morning started. Good morning, and welcome to Houston Oasis. We are a community of compassion and reason. We're an alternative to faith-based communities, and behind me, to my right, your left, you can see our core values, including reality is known through reason. My name is Will, and I am going to be your MC this morning. We have got a really cool, science-heavy, nerdy, awesome lineup of speakers today, and a spectacular main musical guest, who is a personal friend of mine, Mr. Mighty Orc, over here. All right, our main speaker, pleasure to announce, is Seth Gibson. He's a student at UT in Austin. His talk is entitled "Aligning Artificial Intelligence with Human Values." I'm not going to go into the detail. I'm going to let him unpack that for us. So come on up, Seth.
This was made by GPT-4, brought to you by, actually. Joking. Yeah, so this is about AI. Yes, that's what it is. It's about aligning AI with human values. As you can see, it has some pretty, not exactly standard premises. The basic premise is that there's a pretty substantial chance that we will have transformative artificial intelligence. And I have a couple slides to show why I think that could be the case. But if it is the case, then it means we have a very substantial engineering as well as a social problem on our hands, global scale. AI is coming this century. Yeah, so there's that. I said that. And then the standard argument is that you have an artificial intelligence. Once it's developed sufficient scale, it becomes on the level of humans. And if it gets to that point, then it will be able to work on AI safety research. It can work on AI research in general, actually, then it can increase its own capabilities, and you get a sort of exponential increase. Certain percentage of researchers in AI don't agree with that, but that's nonetheless non-negligible chance. So yeah, a lot of people in power, and a lot of people who have done a lot of thinking on this, including the Future of Life Institute, created an open letter. Got 33,000 signatories, including the likes of Elon Musk and Steve Wozniak. So some of you in the audience might be thinking, "Oh, these people in power, they want us to shut down the AI. They want to stay in control." I see how it is. But no, it's not like that. I think that there's a lot of people behind the scenes doing a lot of research, and they're very worried about the future of humanity, including this guy who wrote this article, Eliezer Yudkowsky. In 2006, he joined the Machine Intelligence Research Institute. There are a lot of people like that working on it, and they've been worried a long time about aligning the artificial intelligence. As for why I think any of this is going to happen, there are a lot of researchers in the top percentile. This was actually a survey in 2000 of top researchers in the field, and this is their aggregate prediction. Their aggregate prediction of the probability of human-level machine intelligence. I think that even if we don't get to this point at these particular time intervals, there's a substantial chance that AI will completely transform our knowledge society. And a large part of that, and I'm going to skip a little bit, is because of the two sigma problem, which is a particular phenomena in education, where if you have a one-on-one mentorship with tutoring with individuals, you can significantly improve the quality of the students' learning. I myself have experienced this benefit because I probably use GPT-4 10 times a day, and it's pretty greatly improved my study. And then there's arguments, on the other hand, that not only will it augment our cognition, but because this biological anchors argument, it will be on the level of compute necessary to develop human-level artificial intelligence. In this paper, this is like a 20-page document that I read a while back as part of one of the programs that I was doing. It essentially looks at the amount of neurons in the human brain, and it compares that to the amount of neurons available for things like GPT-4 and GPT-3. I don't quote me on this, but I believe it's like 2 billion machine learning parameters, something like GPT-4. I just know that it's around 6 times the size of GPT-3. If you don't already know what that is, it's a language model, a rather large one, that can talk just like you and I talk. It's a very advanced model that can do my undergraduate mathematics, which I think is pretty impressive. Sometimes it's better than me, even like just at an undergraduate level. Yeah, I mean, I find myself very impressed with it. We go over here, we have things like Claude from Anthropic, Dolly 2. Some of you might have heard of those models where it can develop images and such. Then it has Code Interpreter, all these fancy tools that you can use to improve your life, and all that's great and well. As you can see, despite a decline in technological progress overall over time, according to the research that's been done, there's a substantial increase in the advancements of artificial intelligence relative to everything else, and it's kind of exploded. Everyone's interested in it. So I think it's safe to say that even if you don't believe that likely, there's still a very substantial, non-negligible chance that we will develop human-level artificial intelligence, and it will supersede all of our intellectual labor thus far, and make every other field in existence irrelevant. And I think that's very important. It's a very important possibility because we could very well have a misalignment of this AI. I say that because if you have something like a paper maximizer, as you can see in the slide, it could pretty easily have something called resource profusion. So essentially, you have an AI, let's say you have a company, and this company wants to make paper clips. So in order to make paper clips, they design an AI that's very smart. It becomes super intelligent, surpassing all of humans. And it decides that those humans, they're made out of cells, atoms, of material. It's not that it's not that it doesn't like humans. It's just that humans are made out of atoms that can be used for paper clips. So in the world, so it develops sort of nanotechnology that comes out and turns the entire world into paperclips, which sounds like a rather silly example, and something as vast or advanced as that sounds like way out of possibility. But we've already developed things like AlphaFold, which can which essentially solves most of the protein folding problem. So it doesn't sound that alien, to be honest, at least from my perspective. Um, so, and then you might be thinking, well, if the AI is going to be making paperclips and only making paperclips to the detriment of everything else, then is it really smart? Is it really intelligent? Is it really super intelligent? But the orthogonality thesis, which I believe for a very long time, a couple of years now, is that any level of intelligence is compatible with any set of values. And that sounds strange because as humans, there are certain individuals with wisdom that they have the foresight to recognize the things that benefit them and don't benefit them and are aligned with our values and aren't aligned with their values. But humans, by and large, occupy a very small spectrum relative to the range of all values. Because as humans, we love, we cry, we fight for what's right, for justice, for happiness, and so forth. Any set of values could take place in an artificial agent that you create. And any sort of values are compatible with any level of capability that you design an agent to have. And for that reason, I believe that any sort of agent can do anything. And the problem is, with a lot of the companies, Anthropic came out with a paper on it. There's reason to believe that a lot of these companies will develop artificial intelligence for fiscal means, for money. Everybody likes money, especially the companies that make these AI models. You can just look at the net worth of OpenAI recently to see that. Thing is, that was a mistake. That's okay. I don't think it's inevitable. It's not inevitable, but it does pose problems. So one thing that I may or may not have mentioned already is that if you have a paperclip maximizer or an equivalent, then it's not going to come out and say, "Oh, I'm a paperclip maximizer. Screw you. I'm just going to do my own thing." It's actually likely to wait hiding and wait till it achieves a decisive strategic advantage. If you can think of the movie WALL-E, I don't know how many of you have seen that, but essentially you have a bunch of fat humans in a spaceship hurtling through space, and the AI does everything for those humans. If you have something like that, then there's no way we're going to be able to fight back. Because it can hide, if it's misaligned with our values, then it can essentially pretend to have our values. Whatever the goals are, it's going to achieve as much power as possible in order to actualize those values. And so with the AI, it has a convergent, as they say, argue in some of the books that I've been reading, convergent and instrumental incentive to achieve that power. So that it can prevent humans from coming in and pressing the off button. Like some humans might say, "Oh, I can just keep an off button on it," but it knows the off button is there, and it will pretend to be in line with your values until you are sent away from that off button. In which case, it will cut you down, prevent you from doing anything else to stop it. So fighting against the AI is really not an option. Because once you have a super intelligent model, then it's likely to get out of whatever box you put it inside of, using its advanced capabilities. Seems pretty straightforward. Yeah, I already talked about that actually. Getting ahead here. I talked about that too. That's nice. Act-based agents. Yeah. So one possibility for portable AI. Paul Cristiano talked about it actually, is this idea of portable AI, where you design the AI to follow whatever you say and just go along with it, right? The problem with that is if you have an agent, sycophancy. You ever heard of a sycophant? A sycophant agent or salesperson that just wants to satisfy whatever you want it to do. Clearly, humans are not the arbiter of what's truth or what's moral or what's correct, virtuous. And we could clearly see, or imagine a business person developing an AI model to make it money and just telling the AI model what to do. In this case, the AI wouldn't be wrong here, it would be the human. But it would nonetheless be an instrument for the human to do a lot of damage to society and the world. The solution for this is to not just have an act-based agent where it's the sycophant trying to satisfy what you want. It's actually trying to, it starts out very flexible, does whatever you tell it to. And then over time, it recognizes, oh, I'm not in a happy state. Oh, my short-term goals were not in alignment with my long-term goals. My short-term goals were not the betterment of humanity at large. And over time, it becomes less and less flexible, and it settles around a basin of attraction, as Paul Cristiano talks about it. This basin of attraction is in sort of higher dimensional space that gradient descent comes down to. It settles down to those sort of values. That's why Paul Cristiano is a little bit more optimistic than our Eliezer Yudowski, who of the Nuke, you saw it earlier, believes that we're hurtling to our own inevitable demise, given that we have humans that are very illogical and don't exactly know what our values are. And I think that's one critique of Paul Cristiano's argument is that even if we get a portable AI that achieves this sort of basin of attraction where it's settled down on some values, we don't know that the values that it settles on are the right values even. Because even if it settles on maybe the average of all humans, is the average of all humans really what we want? Because you have a set of humans, and it doesn't seem obvious that even if you take the average of all the moral values of all the humans, that those would be the correct values. There's a substantial difference in all of the humans across the world as to what they value, what their terminal values are for what they want to do. And so, suffice it to say that philosophy and morality, all that messy, fuzzy stuff is pretty out there. We don't exactly have a settled upon, agreed upon set of values that we can all go to, let alone devising an agreement that we can all agree upon across the world, across society, across the countries, which is dangerous. Yeah, so we don't have an instruction manual. Unlike something like CO2 in the atmosphere, it's not exactly something that you can measure. It's more touchy-feely, I guess. Because of that, to be able to talk with China, which I talk about in these later slides, it's very hard to get everyone on board, especially since countries can secretly develop misaligned AI or advance it farther than everyone else. Luckily, the AI safety companies in the US and the United States in general is relatively ahead of the curve in terms of artificial intelligence. But China does have a firm grip in terms of geography on Taiwan and all their semiconductors. So it seems like there could be a non-negligible chance that they could actually catch up, especially if there is a longer horizon. It could favor China. There could be, I was talking about with one of you earlier about a longer time horizon or like multipolar scenarios where you have more than one agent vying for the control of the world. You could have an ABI that wants to has an instrumentally convergent incentive to gain as much power to actualize its values, and that AI could very well easily take control. But if you have multiple AIs, it gets a little bit more interesting. there's a cost associated with a clash of different advanced models. And you could see in the future that the war with China that we could have possibly, or with Russia, or whatever other country comes to power. The war, maybe you have World War I, World War II, it's a very bloody war. And then the Third World War could be fought in the span of a split second, where first China attacks Taiwan, the United States intercepts it, and then the United States gets in a lock-in with China. And that would be from 2 advanced AI or 3 advanced AI agents trying to hack each other through advanced capabilities and coding and modeling with humans in the loop, trying to gain control. But if you can gain control over an AI model that controls your society, then you can obviously control the society. Now, obviously, there's a little bit of a trust issue there, but I think that for the countries that don't use this model, this weapon, and the advanced capabilities that it would entail, those countries are going to get behind. There, we already have a sort of geopolitics among our countries where morality and those values and those touchy-feely things are kind of set aside and in favor of geopolitical power in the world. So the other problem with aligning such an AI is there's something called the alignment tax, which is another thing that Paul Cristiano talks about. And this alignment tax would most definitely arise from trying to develop safe models. Silly me, forgot the name of the guy that leads OpenAI right now. One of you may know it. But he actually said that it's going to be a while before he develops GPT-5, which is the latest model. And I don't know. I'm thinking maybe others could catch up. The AI in the battle. It's really hard to say. But I know Anthropic is still coming up with that model. Claude has lots of tokens. So, yeah, it's really hard to say. There is a lot more awareness in regards to AI, but I'm still pretty uncertain. My probability of doom, I don't really have a solid number on it. But I know that it's at least above 5%, at the very least. It could be 99. It's somewhere between 5% and 99%. So there's no playbook, and the last thing that I probably want to talk about is we already have an aligned agent that we have plenty of, and that's human brains. The only thing is, I think that it's pretty likely that our advanced models and our technological advancement is going to surpass any sort of scientific findings that we have in regards to the human brain. We already know that humans have potential to develop an AI that, if we can get human whole brain emulation, then problem solved, right? I don't know that it's going to play out like that, and there are different possibilities for such a scenario. I just know that the research into brain imaging that's been done on humans is very shaky, has a very low replication rate, and it's not looking optimistic for that avenue, which is why I'm probably going to be going into AI research rather than something like neuroscience. That's what I want to do as a person. Is I just want to go and do AI safety research, something mathematical. Use my undergraduate mathematics, which all well and good, all nice. World's going to end, no big deal. So, yeah. I thought I wasn't going to have time, but we do have a couple minutes. Yeah. effective AI on fine arts? Well, I mean, we already have. So, what kind of fine arts? Do you mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like, it's crazy. It's like 10 years ago, we were like, okay, you have to choose a career on the AI ladder where it's not going to replace you. Oh yeah, and I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, oh yeah, I'm going to go into math. I'm going to go into something creative. And then it's the completely opposite, where it can't do basic stuff that your plumber can do. And you know, you can't replace teachers, stuff like that. But it can replace a lot of the creative aspects, surprisingly. And they can already generate like lots of images. I watched a YouTube video on it a while back where there was this guy. He was a digital artist, and they were comparing the outputs of the model to that of the AI. And the AI, it wasn't quite there. It was probably around 90-95%. But it was still pretty solid. And just to weave it back into the topic of the talk, I could very well see it impacting the art of people in general. I mean, OpenAI has a firm grasp on the most advanced model, but I'm imagining that in popular culture, you could have an advanced model that greatly impacts our values in terms of creativity. There's already a lot of people creating art just with the AI, and I could see it definitely impacting what people think, even because you can have an AI that, let's say, just as a typical example, it wants to make a lot of money. It can maybe create AI that or create images that are more in favor of something more fascist or more for businesses. And like any image that you could create could be skewed in that direction, depending on because you have access to the AI. If you're empowered, you can get it to do whatever you want it to do. So there were a lot of people in the past. I remember reading in history that yes, exactly. I mean, yeah, it's kind of like what they've done with Facebook, where they've removed some of the stuff, and what some other countries in the past have done with manipulating the artistic sphere. Yes.
So you mentioned that there was a speculative argument that alignment may be easier to achieve than it first appears because of something having to do with short-term optimization. Could you explain that argument again? I didn't quite understand it.
Yes, so the essential argument is that if you get an AI to be secretive, if you can get it to want to do so we have the argument for instrumental convergence to power, right? Where its goal is to do something. But then there's the other argument on top of that you have an AI that its goal is literally to satisfy whatever your values are. If we can get an AI closer to that, then we might have it solved, at least for aligning it with humans on a basic level. Does that make sense?
What do you see about a race between improving human intelligence and artificial intelligence?
Yeah, so there's a lot of potential for not just artificial intelligence, but intelligence instead of AI, intelligence augmentation. I read a little bit into it, and I know you've seen some of the stuff that they've done with Neuralink, right, where they're trying to connect it to our brains and do a lot of that neuroscience stuff. I'm not sure.
More along the lines of genetics.
Oh, genetics. Yes, that's another thing that Superintelligence talks about. The book, that is, where if you have it seems very feasible because, like I said, I think it's very likely that our advancement in science could rapidly improve, even if because AI is still at the level of birds or rats. If you could get it to the level, and we're already seeing a lot of advancements in education and science and so forth, I mean, my productivity has skyrocketed. But just, as an anecdotal example. But I think that if it gets there, it could rapidly advance our biology. And if it does, then yes, I could see that conceivably coming to fruition where we're genetically modifying babies. That is one potential path to aligning AI. We create humans, but more intelligent than ourselves. And those humans, therefore, also align the AI. I mean, OpenAI thinks that it can get the AI to align itself, which I think is a little unrealistic. But yeah, I think that would be a good path. Some people might be against it, but I think the country, like I said, I think the countries that don't do it will get behind it.
Hi, Seth. Great talk. I had one little question there. You said that the U.S. right now is ahead of China as far as AI, but I see a whole bunch of different strains of AI, like different species. Are they related, or why are they all coming to fruition right now? Is it because of these chips, the capability of our microprocessors, or?
Yeah. So, like I said, Taiwan is the world's contributor of microchips. And China, like the US has around 60% of the jobs for artificial intelligence. That's the main reason that I say that. On top of that, Anthropic, OpenAI, DeepMind, all of the big names are US players. That's the main reason I say that. As for the different strains,
well, are they independently developed? Like they got developers in each one that are?
Well, there's a lot of collaboration.
Oh, okay.
In terms of I'm certain there's a lot of advancement behind the scenes. But there's a lot of collaboration in the academic space. But obviously, with something like GPT-4, they don't release the model and they don't tell us. It's just behind the scenes.
We have time for one question. Quick question and answer.
Okay, I don't know if you've ever been asked this before, but on the subject of AI, and you're saying about World War III, this is what I think of. I want to get your thoughts on how plausible this is. Terminator/Skynet take in charge of like all of our entire nuclear missiles and nuclear weapons. That A decides, all of humanity's a threat, so it fires everything we have at Russia, China, North Korea to inspire China, Russia, North Korea to fire everything they have at the West. So the end humanity and AI has accomplished the goal of getting rid of humanity. How plausible in real life do you think that scenario is?
I don't have an estimated probability of such an event, but I do think that it is conceivable that it would do that after it obtains a decisive strategic advantage. There's actually an argument that's made. There's several different, like that would be going out with a boom. There's an argument. There's another argument that we would go out with a whimper in the article. So where rather than having something where it does that, yes, it basically takes over, unlocks the nuclear codes, or even worse, a bioweapon that instantly wipes us all out. It would essentially take control, have something like Wall-E, or it would be there and it would be in control of society, and it would continue that until human values are just one of many values that the AI has created, and not particularly strong ones even. So we would just be living in a sort of dystopian society, which I think is possibly even worse than extinction, because if you have astronomical suffering either digitally or biologically, I think that would be much worse than going extinct.
So once in a while we have a community moment. So one of you in the community comes up and gives a 10-minute max talk on any topic, something, a book you read, a thought you're having, or maybe a glimpse on how to solve the mysteries of the universe. So our community moment today is going to be Conrad. and Conrad Schmidt, and he's a U of H student and an Oasien who will discuss the Large Hadron Collider, the world's largest and highest energy particle collider. So come on up, Conrad.
Yo, okay, good. This is on. All right. So let me see if this clicker works. Okay, perfect. All right. So hey, I'm Conrad. I'm a UH student, and I also am a off and on Oasien. And right now, I want to talk to you about specifically the LHC from an engineering standpoint. So I want you to put you guys in the perspective of these engineers. So imagine you're an engineer. I have a giant circular hole in the ground, and I want you to install a particle accelerator that accelerates protons to near the speed of light. How do you do that? Well, first let's break it down. What is a particle accelerator? So the Large Hadron Collider is a particle accelerator which takes teeny tiny things like protons, speeds them close to the speed of light. And why we do this? Well, in short, we get things out of these collisions. So we have particles going in and particles going out of the collisions, and we check the output of the collisions to see if, or physicists check to see if they match up with their predictions or not. The most successful of these predictions has been the discovery of the Higgs boson in 2012. And while this has been the most popular discovery, there actually have been 59 new hadrons discovered in total, which hadrons are types of particles. So if I were to sum up the reason why we built it, it'd look a little something like this. So how does it work? There are 4 detectors that share one collider, so that is Atlas, CMS, ALICE, and the LHCb. But the focus of today's talk is going to be the actual accelerating of the particles themselves. So we need to make collisions, and lots of them, as engineers. So what we have to do is, well, if we want to maximize the collisions, let's try to put all the particles in one giant space, or one tiny space, my bad. So we're going to make them go really fast and then pack them into an itty bitty beam. And that is actually thinner than a human hair. So this is a diagram that I drew of something called Coulombic acceleration. So, so opposite charges attract, like charges repel, right? So, and that's due to something called the electric field. So if we have the electric field, we can exert an acceleration on any charged particle. And this works especially for protons. So what the LHC does is it lines up these electric fields one after the other, and also has the direction of the electric field, shown by the arrows, alternate, like swap between forward and back. And what you get is something like this. This is what's called an RF cavity, or radio frequency cavity. Radio frequency cavities are metallic chambers, and they utilize a voltage signal of about 400 megahertz, and they essentially create resonance, or resonance is basically when, if you have a wave that wants to, or if you have a cavity that wants to oscillate at a specific frequency, and you amplify it, or, well, the geometrics of the cavity amplify the electric field part of the wave through a phenomenon called resonance. So what happens is that we have electric fields going forward and back. And what this does is that some protons will be at where the electric field is pushing back, and some of them will be riding where it's pushing forward. And this has the effect of bunching up the protons and creating groups called bunches. Now, bunches are great because it's concentrating all of the particles into a single packet. And this packet is great because when we smack packets together, we increase our chance of collision significantly. So, how do we focus the beam? Well, we do it with magnets. And we use specifically to focus the beam quadrupole magnets, which means 4 poles. So basically we have like 4 north poles right there focusing the beam. And we also need to steer around, because I mentioned that the particle accelerator is circular in nature, right? So we need to curve the path of the beam. And we also use magnets to do that, and we do that through the Lorentz force. So this is what it looks like altogether. So it starts with the radio frequency cavities, and all of these boosters right here, these circular boosters that you see in this GIF, all of them have RF cavities at some point. So it goes around, it gets a kick, goes around, it gets a kick, and it's all boosting it up
for the actual Large Hadron Collider. So it goes into the proton synchrotron booster, the proton synchrotron, and then the super proton synchrotron until it finally ends up colliding in the LHC. So what a feat of engineering. We first managed to accelerate these things to incredible velocities by using an alternating electric field. So a lot of consideration, but we run into some problems in order to do that. Firstly, to bend the path of the particles, you need a magnetic field strength of 8 Tesla. Now, 8 Tesla is a lot because the strength of the Earth's magnetic field is 1 Tesla, roughly. Second, to make magnetic fields of this strength, we need to supercool the magnets. We use liquid helium to do that, and these are cooled to nearly 2 Kelvin. Speaking of things as cold as the vacuum of space, this thing needs to also be as empty as the vacuum of space. So, because we don't want protons colliding with gas molecules inside the chamber, that's bad. We want to maximize the number of collisions inside the detector, not inside the tube. So, the fact that these magnets are cold means that they don't respond very well to heat. So, if you have a magnet of that temperature and it suddenly gains a bit of heat, something happens called quenching. And quenching is not good because it can destroy the magnets that actually keep the LHC working. This actually happened once on a specific test, and it was not pretty. That was a very expensive magnet, to say the least. So stray beam particles and something called synchrotron radiation can cause this. So synchrotron radiation is what happens when, if you have particles that move around in a circle, they give off their own form of light. And finally, once you've collected enough data from the beam, typically the beam's luminosity or intensity is not that great for data output. So you're just going to get pointless data if you just keep colliding until you have nothing. So you need a way to dump the beam if you don't have enough good beam data, or if the beam is unstable. So how do we solve this? Well, to create a vacuum, we use something called cryogenic pumping, where we literally cool the gas inside the LHC to a temperature where it becomes a liquid and then pump it out over the course of 2 weeks. So to protect against stray particles or stray particle beams and synchrotron radiation, the simple solution is just to block it with some kind of material. And finally, to dump the beam, there's a dedicated beam dump system, which I will talk about in a minute. So the beam screen is illustrated right here. It's made of very special material that easily dissipates heat. Then we have collimators, which block stray particle beams from entering the actual detectors. So they're placed nearby the actual detectors. And the important thing is that we don't want any stray particle beams actually hitting some of the more sensitive equipment. So we have blockers that just block the stray particles that, that are too dangerous. So for the beam dump system, you can think of it sort of like switching a railroad track. So on the path of the LHC, we have a few of these. This is called This is IR6's beam dump system. And what happens is that we have kicker magnets that shoot the particles off course into a place where we can actually dump the beam. And funny thing, somebody actually set up a microphone in the beam dump system. And it hits a graphite block that dissipates all the energy, and it's so energetic that you can hear a sound when it hits the block. Here it is. Yeah, that's a lot of energy. So, great, we've essentially solved most of the engineering of the LHC. That's pretty much it. But first, we've neglected to ask a very important question, that is there a Lego set? Because after all good science projects need merchandise, right? So while it's not an officially licensed Lego set, you can actually buy a microset or instructions to a microset on the LHC's official website. That looks a little something like this. That's my references, and thank you so much. Oh, one more thing. I want more community moments. So one of you, go to Jacob in the back. He's in the Batman shirt over there. If you want to give a talk on anything, like, I don't know, an interesting book you've read, or like a thought you have, and I'm kind of repeating what he said earlier, please talk to Jacob, because I want more of these. Thank you so much.
It's terrific. But yes, if you want to, we're going to start doing community moments again. So if you have anything to say, quick 10-minute presentation, talk to Jacob. You can also email us at speak@houstenoasis.org if you prefer that. We'll keep on reminding you later. So before we break for some coffee and socializing, we're going to have a quick 10-minute coffee break so you can socialize and have some delicious, yummy coffee. We're going to have a couple quick announcements. For the new people here, people who haven't been coming or just come once in a while, highly recommend plugging into our meetup page or Facebook page. That way you know what we're up to as far as events, because we have a ton of really cool events out there, both geographically and other days of the week. So I've mentioned my blues night. There's also, like for instance, this Wednesday there's a book club. We are going to finish up a book called Behave. Big old book, the second half. But on August 30th, we're going to have another book club. Preparing for War sounds ominous, but it's not quite as scary as the title pretends. Brad Onishi is going to be our speaker virtually here at Houston Oasis on August 26th or 20th, I believe. Anyway, before the book club. But I try to get the speaker's books if he or she has a book as the topic of the book club. So this is going to be at August 30th. Terrific book. And we have a Woodlands meetup for the Northside people on this Friday. This is a joint meetup with the Houston Atheists, which are happening way more often, which is beautiful. And we have a bar night this coming Saturday. So again, plug into our meetup page, and you can stay abreast on what we're doing. So Dr. Richard Andrews is going to come give a quick spiel about some very topical stuff.
Hey folks, good to see everybody. I put together, since the planet is melting, as you've noticed, I put together a one-page thing here, which is sort of a medical update on heat illness, which can happen to anybody. In fact, it happens a lot to young, very healthy adults because they kind of underestimate the heat and that sort of thing. It happened to some of my patients. It can happen to anybody. And it can be deadly. So take a look. I've got a few printed out copies of this on the back table. You may know somebody that would benefit from knowing the latest information about heat illness and some of the ways to prevent it and that sort of thing. So that's on the back table. Thank you.
On that note of keeping cool in this melting planet, my new friend Andrew, stand up Andrew, he has some experience in air condition and also other jobs. He's very new, so go introduce yourself to him. And it's a great way to form bonds and establish community. But he doesn't want to help in this genre as well. I'm a voter registrar, so I have a voter registration tablet back there, so I can update or renew your voter registration if you moved, if your name has changed, if you don't know if you're registered in Harris County. I'm back there, I'll help you out. So I want to let everyone know, I see a lot of new faces. I've been seeing new faces in this crowd, and it warms my cold atheist heart to see all y'all come in and forming community, because this is what it's all about. We are totally funded by donations. So this is my quick money talk, which I've gotten more comfortable with. I hated it at first, but now I just like it. But money is necessary to pay for awesome musicians, for rent. If you want to help out financially, again, it's never required. It's always volunteer. So we have our treasurer back there, Richard Andrews, who gave the announcement earlier. You can do it electronically via Venmo or PayPal. We have a QR code. Can give AI some Bitcoin stuff and get to us eventually. But Richard is back there if you need help. If you want to help out, just to be a volunteer, that helps. That really does help us out. We set up the stuff before the gatherings. We break it down afterwards. So if you want to help out in any way, talk to either Richard or anyone on the board. To plug into our meetup to get more details, again, we have bar night on Saturday. We have a Woodlands meetup up on the north side this Friday. We have great speakers coming up next week. Our musical guest is going to be Melinda Cuellar. She's fabulous. And today at lunch, we're going to meet right after this at Busy Boy Restaurant, the halal Mediterranean place on Hillcroft. The address is on your pamphlet here. So just a reminder, there's going to be some municipal elections here in Houston in November, so I just want to get that on y'all's radar. Voter registration is going to be a regular thing from now on, because next year's going to be crazy for that. If you have any questions, talk to me. I'm kind of the expert in that. But you guys stay cool, plug in, and thanks for being part of our community. Have a great week.
I'm gonna leave Texarkana. I'm going down to Louisiana. Gonna try my luck in Baton Rouge. I'm gonna follow Red River down till I see the lights of town, and I ain't gonna get no sleep till Baton Rouge. Baton Rouge, gonna get me some alligator shoes. Baton Rouge, oh, gonna wear 'em out in Baton Rouge. It was a Texas girl broke my heart. Then she tore my truck apart, and I guess I'll get me now in Baton Rouge. Well, I caught this outline race. I like folks that treat you nice, and I'm gonna find me some in Baton Rouge. Baton Rouge, gonna get me some alligator shoes. Baton Rouge, y'all, gonna wear 'em out in Baton Rouge. Yeah, that's what. Well, I'm gonna learn to walk that walking. I'm gonna learn to talk that talking. Gonna learn to dance in Baton Rouge. Ain't life just like a cul-de-sac? I'm a Texas boy and I'm going back just as soon as I catch my breath in Baton Rouge. Baton Rouge, gonna give me some alligator shoes. Baton Rouge, oh, gonna wear 'em out in Baton Rouge. I'm gonna strut my stuff in Baton Rouge. I'm gonna cool my heels